I had a fantastic time with you today. We talked about what it's like to take a brand from zero to $100 million in sales in less than 4 years, what it's like to start on Amazon and then grow rapidly as an initial distribution strategy, as well as what it's like to be a Twitter influencer herself. If you enjoyed today's show today, guys, make sure to be a friend, tell a friend, and subscribe. Thanks.
Influencers, inspiration, and Instagram, Instagram, Instagram. This is Earned by Tribe Dynamics. Here's Conor Begley.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Earned. We have a awesome guest today. We have the somewhat famous Ju Rhyu, founder of Hero Cosmetics, on the show. Welcome to the show, Ju.
Hey, Conor. Thanks for having me.
And before we get into saying all the amazing things there are about Ju, I've got a confession to make, which is we actually recorded this exact same episode 2 weeks ago. And the problem is, or it's a good, bad story, right? So the good part is the podcast is growing. So it's top 5% in the world, according to Listen Notes. It's over 100% year-over-year growth. It's doing really well. So we're going to make some investments. So I've got DSLR camera, lights, this, that, the other thing. And then we got about an hour into the episode and realized that I'd forgotten to hit the record button. So really appreciative of you for coming back for round two. I tried to drink as many Mai Tais. I was in Hawaii for the last 2 weeks, tried to drink as many as I could to forget as much as I could about you too. But thanks for taking out the time again.
No problem. I mean, we actually finished, well, we thought we finished recording it, and then we stopped, and then you realized that the recording button wasn't on, but totally fine. I think second time's a charm, right?
Yeah, and that's the nature of business. It doesn't always go to plan. Well, for those that don't know Ju, she's got a fascinating background. So you joined a tech accelerator out of school, then graduated from Columbia Business School, then you worked at Kraft, Samsung in Korea during a recession, and then you're running the brand now. So it's been about 4 years, north of $100 million in sales. You're also killing it on the influencer side. So EMV is up 144% year over year for 2021. It is a fascinating career, to say the least, and I'm excited to learn about it for the second time.
Well, yeah, I can't wait to share with you again for the second time.
Okay, so let's start out of the gates with, what is it about running a $100 million brand today that is different than when you started it, right? Like what was different than what you actually expected?
Oh gosh, I mean, the biggest thing is right now I spend a lot of time saying no. Before, in the early beginnings of the company, I said yes to everything, every opportunity. If a retailer wanted us, in the beginning, it was all about, yes, let me figure out how to make it happen. And now I have a much more comprehensive filter. So I say no probably like 99% of the time, and only really try to make room for the things that will really move the needle or make sense strategically. So I think that's the biggest difference when you start getting to scale is you start saying no more.
Yeah, I mean, I've had the exact same experience on the Tribe side. It's at the beginning, you're really trying kind of almost anything, which I don't know if that's necessarily the right way to do it, but certainly the way that I think most people start out. What are some of the things that you're saying no to right now? Like, what's something that you're like, man, I was really close, we were really considering it, but then, decided it wasn't the right fit?
I mean, it's crazy, but I say no to retailers, like big ones.
Mm-hmm.
Like we are an omni-channel brand, so we're online but also offline. We're at Target. We just expanded at Ulta, but I have a lot more really tempting retailers that come to us all the time, almost like begging us to let them sell our products. And it takes a lot of discipline to say no, but we say no, like it's not the right time because we need to focus on X, Y, and Z. Because actually, like when you unlock those kinds of opportunities, you really need to resource up, and at the right time, we will. So that's one. I say no a lot to things that take up my time now.
Mm,
So, like, I'll get a lot of messages from people saying, "Oh, I want 15 minutes of your time because I want to talk to you about this," or "I'm the student and I really want to survey you for this." And before, I used to say yes a lot more,
yep.
and it's really fun to do those things. I actually enjoy them, but now, like, I'm in this period where I have to really protect my time. So, yeah, those are some of the things I say no to.
So how do you decide kind of what your retail footprint should look like? Like how is that, what is your decision-making process in terms of saying no to, okay, I'm in Target, but Walmart's come to me and I'm not going to go into Walmart or whatever it happens to be.
That's a really good question. So, I mean, ultimately, the goal is to be everywhere because key sort of mission for the company is that anyone who needs our products, we make acne products. So anyone who needs them should be able to A, afford them, but also B, buy them wherever they buy acne products. So eventually we'll be everywhere, but in the beginning you have to like pick and choose, right? Because you just don't have the resources again to do everything at the same time. So we took a strategy where we're online. We started out on Amazon. I tell people a lot of our success on Amazon was just focus because it was one SKU, one channel. Then we really focused on growing with a major partner in mass. And that partner, like, I mean, really the two big retailers are Walmart and Target. And so of those, we really focus on Target.
Yep.
Um, and you just kind of focus on like the different channels. So there's mass, there's drug, there's specialty. And the best way really is to pick one partner, go deep with that partner. So in specialty, our partner is it's Ulta.
Hmm.
And this year we expanded with Ulta. Next year we'll have a drug partner, and then you just keep expanding out in terms of channel strategy. And it's better to focus on one, and then after you've dominated that one, then you sort of spread your wings.
You mentioned you focused on Target initially. What was it about Walmart that made you not decide to focus there? Yeah, how did that work?
Well, it's more. I mean, Target, I think, is such an amazing retailer. They really have done a lot to like just improve the store experience. They're really great at curating indie brands. I mean, I loved some of the brands that really grew up at Target. Like if you think about the Harrys or the Natives or like Winky Lex had like an amazing end cap there, and I think they're really good about picking and choosing which indie brands would resonate with their guests and really getting behind them.
Hmm.
And just from a brand fit, I thought it was really great. It was really like the perfect partner for us. And so, yeah, when the opportunity came, and we jumped at the opportunity to go to Target.
Yeah, it really feels like just the branding, just the whole kind of product, et cetera, feels like a Target brand to me. Like I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah,
Um, and
right.
and in some ways, it's good on Target for having such like a defined. They're so defined from a personality perspective, and that's
Yeah.
part of the reason they've done so well, as a retailer, despite the fact that they're facing Amazon and Walmart and all these other retailers at the same time. And it's like one of my wife's favorite places.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting because I mean, Walmart is getting heavy into kind of basically taking a page out of the Target playbook and doing a lot of things with up and coming brands.
Hmm.
CVS, I believe, just poached the former beauty exec at Walmart. So some of these players, I'll be really interested to see what they do because I think they're seeing the success at Target and trying to do something similar on their own.
Yeah, well, I mean, more the better reputation you get as a brand builder versus somebody who's just kind of distribution, I think ends up getting you the types of brands that drive foot traffic, right? Which for them, especially as like a physical presence, if you're just about convenience, it's tough. It's going to get tougher and tougher to compete with Amazon over time, right? And so you have to have
Yeah,
some
yeah.
kind of element of curation, uniqueness, et cetera, to win. Actually, we're on the retailer game here, so let's talk about that a little bit. So the thing I think is most fascinating about your brand, or one of the most fascinating things, is kind of the origin story when it comes to distribution, which is initially you guys launched on Amazon. You did it because it was the cheapest and easiest, and you could do it without having to build a website and do all that kind of stuff. Um, Talk to me about how you approached that space, right? And what were some of the benefits of being so focused in terms of your initial distribution strategy?
Yeah, I always tell people we're a digitally native brand, but we did DTC all backwards because for people who don't know, we did DTC last because we started on Amazon, then we went into retail, and then we launched a DTC site. So we did it totally backwards, but it worked out really well for us. And we embraced Amazon before Amazon really became cool. This was back in 2017, before COVID sort of changed everything. But it was, we were bootstrapping the business. We needed a way to get the product in front of a lot of people really fast, but also very like cheaply. We didn't
Hmm.
have a ton of money. And so Amazon was perfect because where else will you be able to access hundreds of millions of potential customers in one platform where you don't have to acquire them necessarily. And I already knew that people were buying this type of product on Amazon. So I knew that people were, searching for acne patches on Amazon. So it just made sense. It was the perfect place for us to start because it didn't require a lot of capital. People were already looking for this product, this type of product. And, we had the potential to really access so many people really quickly. And so, yeah, we started with one SKU on Amazon back in 2017, and then the success on Amazon really opened the door to retail and a lot of other opportunities.
I honestly think that one of the biggest shifts in consumer behavior that I've seen when it comes to like product discovery is this shift from Google search to Amazon search, right? So from going from
Uh
like
huh.
historically people always did Google search, right? And so there's SEO around Google search and that was incredibly valuable. Continues to be very, very valuable. But now I know that I personally and a lot of people go to Amazon first to just search for, hey, acne patches, right? So for you
Yep.
guys, I know that I would imagine you're number one in those results at this point.
Yeah.
One, would love to hear how you got there. And then
Yeah.
two, would love to hear about what percent of your customers, you could do it both overall and just for Amazon specifically, are coming in purely via they're just searching for an acne patch and you're the first one and they buy you. Do you have any idea of like what percent contribution that is to new customers?
It's quite high, and a lot of it comes from paid. So
Mm,
for people who don't know how the Amazon engine works, Amazon's kind of it works almost like a Google search engine, right? So you type in the product or product name or product category that you're looking for, and it populates like a list of results. And so organically, you can be placed at the top of the list, or you can pay for an ad to be placed at the front of the pack. And so either way, the benefit is that you're like, I think they've done research where it shows like very, very few people scroll like after page two or something like that. So
yep,
really being like at the top of the list is crucial.
yep.
And so I know we have the highest in terms of paid share of voice. We're up there in terms of organic, but yeah, I think most of the people come to us because we are literally like like position number one, number two, number three, and it's that's why I think the Amazon strategy is so important, and it takes time to get there. So back to your other point about like how did we start and kind of build this machine. Really, the biggest thing is it takes time. So you're not going to build a successful Amazon business overnight because it takes time for their algorithms to sort of pick up on the keywords that you have in your listing. It takes time to build up the reviews. It takes time to really get your ad strategy in place. But it's really kind of it's just like an Amazon flywheel that you build because once you have a certain number of reviews, the right keywords, you end up ranking higher, and the higher you rank, the more you sell, the more reviews you get. And so it's just like a cycle, right? That benefits you the more that you can get all that stuff, right? So yeah, it definitely doesn't happen overnight. I know people try to shortcut it, but definitely do not do that because they will find out and they will shut you down for sure. So it's anyways, it's a mix of optimizing your images, optimizing your product page, having the right ad strategy in place, and then also supporting externally with social or email or media. We get a lot of affiliate links lead to Amazon. People love linking to Amazon.
It's been fascinating watching this kind of journey for Amazon through this time period, right? Because you have a lot of people that are gaming the reviews, right? But then for them, that's like super critical to discovery that those reviews are trustworthy. And so they're doing all kinds
Yeah.
of badges and moderation and all this kind of stuff. But obviously, just like SEO, there's such a big prize at the end of the rainbow that if you can get it right, right, like it's worth a lot. And
Yep.
so,
Totally.
and then similarly on the paid strategy, it's interesting to see like I I mean, it is a massive growing business for them, the kind of paid ads. And I think logically it makes sense for them to have it. It feels a little much for me right now. Like there's a lot of ads. Like it's like I have to go through quite a bit to get like to the
Yeah.
organic results.
Everything's, yes,
But
100%.
but again, the nice part is it's all kind of cased in reviews, right? So it's like, okay, if they've got a lot of good reviews, I don't really care, right? So
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's fascinating. I don't know if you've ever disclosed this, but what percent? Give me ballpark. You don't have to get exact numbers. Comes through Amazon specifically, and obviously that's
A
changed
little bit.
over time.
Yeah, a little bit less than half, a little bit less. So our two biggest channels are Amazon and Target.
Yep,
And Target's it edges out Amazon in terms of dollar sales,
yep.
but Amazon still, it makes up a good chunk of the business for sure.
And then does Amazon actually distribute your products, or is it done through?
No,
No, you guys have your own.
we're 3P.
Okay.
Yeah, we're 3P. We were never 1P. And it's funny, I just saw a Twitter thread on the benefits of 1P versus 3P. Uh, I mean, we love 3P just because it's all about price protection.
Mm,
Because the difference between 1P and 3P is 1P, you're basically selling to Amazon as if they're a retailer,
yep.
like the way that we would sell to Target. And then 3P would be you manage the platform on your own. You're a seller on their platform.
Yep.
So the biggest benefit of 3P really is you own your price and you can protect it, and that's kind of what actually I think allows us to be omni-channel, because there are a lot of retailers that hate Amazon
Hmm.
because they know that Amazon's algorithms, especially if you're 1P, will always undercut them. But if
Uh,
you are 3P, they don't mind as much because they know that you're going to hold the price. So it's all like the key really is all about controlling the price, and it's much easier to do that when you're 3P.
Fascinating. Okay, wait, we're gonna dive in. So, like, how does, because this is such a new world for me, how does that work with like kind of Prime? Like, how can they have Prime delivery if you're the one actually, distributing the product?
So Prime, we use their fulfillment centers. So it's
Gotcha.
fulfilled by Amazon. It's
Yep.
much easier to get the Prime badge as a seller if you leverage their fulfillment capabilities.
Hmm.
Otherwise, if you don't do FBA and you fulfill on your own, you have to get like a certain amount of like ratings and feedback from buyers to establish your credibility before you're allowed to get the Prime badge. So you kind of have to earn the Prime badge. They
Gotcha.
don't just give it to everybody.
Yeah.
So if you're a new seller, you have to like earn a reputation as a reputable seller, and then you can access the Prime badge.
Yeah. 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 That's fascinating. 50%. That's a ton of money. That's
Yeah,
super cool.
it's
Um,
still growing though.
what?
Still growing.
Yeah.
It's 50% of our business, but it's still growing.
It's funny that you talk about the price protection, and this is kind of a tangent, but I remember I was buying an iPad it was like my dad for the holidays, and I went to Apple and like looked at the iPad, and then it was like, oh, I probably can get it faster through Amazon. So I went to Amazon. It was like $75 less on Amazon, like sold by Apple through Amazon. Like it's like the Apple store on Amazon. And it was like that for like a long time. It wasn't just like some blip. It was like 6 months
Yeah,
to a year. I haven't checked in on it in a while, but it was just like how this doesn't like so,
that's
and
weird.
it was like it was like the cheap iPad, right? So it's like a significant price difference. Um
Yeah.
anyways, I'm like there's some weird contractual relationships going on here. I don't know what's going on. These are
Yeah,
this
probably.
didn't just like slip through, right? This wasn't just like
Yeah.
well, let's take a step back. So let's talk a little bit about your journey, right? So
Mhm.
you graduated, went to Columbia, then did craft, then did Samsung in Korea, right? Tell me about that journey
Mhm.
a little bit, and then ultimately what led you to want to be an entrepreneur? Because I know your dad was an entrepreneur. Obviously, it's in the blood, it's
Yeah.
in the family. But talk to me about that
Yeah.
journey, and then also what made you decide to make the leap and get into it.
I mean, yeah, you're right. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. My dad is one, so I grew up with that influence, I guess.
Hmm.
He always worked from home. I like that he had like flexibility around his schedule. He could travel when he wanted to, et cetera, et cetera. Except like I didn't take that route. And honestly, like I had tried like throughout my youth or career, like I had tried a few times, but just nothing really ever stuck. And because nothing ever really stuck, I just, took the safer road, which was to get a more like corporate job.
Hmm.
And so I got my MBA at Columbia. I was really fascinated by marketing. I wanted to be in marketing because I thought it was a great fit between being creative but also being analytical. And so went to Kraft Foods and brand management. I mean, great training. I lean on my CPG experience all the time, even to this day. It's all about putting the consumer at the core. It's about really listening and understanding insights and teasing out those insights to make like hypotheses and business decisions. So that was, yeah, super critical experience for me. And then went to American Express because the thing about CPG, and it's still true today, but especially back then, is that you don't have a direct relationship with your end user
Hmm.
because you always sell through a retailer, and so the user or the consumer ends up being, for example, it's like Target's guest.
Yep.
But when I was working at Kraft Foods, it was never our customer. And so we never had any data. The data always came through a retailer. So there was
Yep.
never that direct link. So I went to American Express because at a place like American Express, they own the relationship with the card member, and so I just realized it unlocks like all this really interesting data and information that you never had because at Kraft, for example, because you're always selling through someone. And then, and similarly, I mean, going to Korea to work for Samsung was kind of a similar experience where I was building an e-commerce platform. But that's where I used my first ever hydrocolloid acne patch, and that's sort of where, I mean, it really inspires everything that we do at Hero. And because the product was just so amazing, and I was like, what, this acne patch is amazing. Why am I learning about it now? More people need to know about it. um, and really, I leveraged a lot of what I learned at Kraft and at American Express to really launch our first product, which was Mighty Patch. Drawing the insights, like watching sort of consumer behavior, understanding that there was a market and a demand, using kind of those insights to create the name and the product and the branding. So experiences definitely don't go to waste. I think you leverage them and you build on them.
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like you guys as a company straddle this kind of beauty and CPG category, right? Like you're kind of halfway in between both worlds. And I've heard actually and kind of observed generally that people who are going from pure CPG to beauty have actually kind of had a hard time, right? 'Cause it's a little bit different, a
Oh,
little bit more emotional.
yeah, it is kind of different, right?
Yeah. But you guys have obviously navigated that super successfully, which is really impressive. Um, so talk to me. This is kind of taking a couple steps back, but like, what made you decide to get an MBA? Like, why the MBA, and is that something you'd recommend to somebody else who's kind of on a similar path to you?
I mean, I didn't have a traditional business background, and I did want to get into like classic marketing, and so
Hmm.
for me, like the MBA was it was a great way to be a career switcher and get myself into CPG and brand management. Would I recommend it? I mean, it's just a personal question. I mean, it's very expensive,
Hmm.
first and foremost. But the 2 years that I spent, I mean, I did learn a lot, and I focused on a school because I didn't have a finance background. So
Hmm.
I wanted to go to a school that could help me like kind of plug that hole.
Hmm.
And Columbia is really was known back then as stronger in finance. So I mean, learned a lot. Still have like really great friends from school, and I think the alumni network is also really powerful. But there are a lot of people, especially when you're an entrepreneur, like running your business is kind of your MBA.
Yep.
And there are other places I think where you can learn a lot and learn kind of get a similar sort of education, although you won't get the same experience.
Hmm.
So it's yeah, I would say it's a personal decision. Kind of depends on what you want to do, what you're trying to get out of it, where you think you might go. Um, uh, but I mean, I had a great experience. I thought it was exactly what I needed to get to the next step.
For sure. I think the switching careers, switching focus is a big one. I actually I did a double in marketing and finance, minor in econ, right? So I kind of tried to hit a few different things, but I still didn't know shit about finance by the time that I got I just it's kind of wild. And I think that as an entrepreneur, it's one of the skill sets that is undervalued, right? That people tend to not have but need
The
as an
finance
entrepreneur.
piece,
What? Say it again.
the finance piece.
Yeah, the finance piece. It's actually just
Yeah.
super
Hu-
critical.
Oh
Um,
yeah, 100% agree.
and just don't most people don't have it and they don't invest in it, and then it kind of bites them in the
Yeah.
ass in a big way later
Yeah.
on. Um,
Yep.
it's really really important. I think it's part of the reason that anyways, it's just I think it's a piece that people tend to underinvest in for sure. We did for sure.
Yeah. I know we did too. We outsource everything, but man, like finance, I totally agree. It's so critical. Like learning to read a P&L as a founder is going to be really important because they're inputs that help you make decisions. So, and there are a lot of founders who tend to be more creative, right? Like
Yep.
I know a lot of people who are like, oh no, I don't like the numbers. I just want to do like the creative stuff, the photo shoots and the packaging and design, and that's fine. But you need someone to be strong in this area because it's like it's just a foundation of how you're going to build your business.
But yeah, and it's important from, a credibility perspective if you ever want to go out and raise money, and then also just forecasting, right? You get it
Yeah,
wrong, it's a big problem, like a really big
yeah,
problem. And it's
yeah,
hard to get it right, right? We really didn't get good at forecasting for 5 years, 6 years. It was bad. And it
yeah,
was if I could go back and change something, it's an area that I would change for sure.
yeah.
Okay, so
Agree.
let's go back to Hero. So, one of the things that you talked about is that you invested in earned media really aggressively, kind of early on. Talk to me about what that approach was, because this is going to matter a lot to our audience. What that approach was, what worked, what didn't, and then what you kind of learned from it.
Yeah, so we were bootstrapped for the first 3 years. We didn't have a ton of money because we didn't raise any.
Yeah.
So we had this product. We had our channel, which was Amazon, and then obviously the next question is, well, how are we going to get people to know that we exist, and how are we going to get people to our page? So we did focus a lot, or really like exclusively on earned media for the first at least year,
Yeah.
and that was press and influencers. So the press piece, I mean. I didn't hire a PR person. I use this website called Launch Grow Joy.
Mhm.
And I still recommend it today. It's great. It's like DIY PR where they connect you with different editors in different industries and they give you their contact info.
Yeah.
So you like log in, they'll say like, hi, I'm, an editor at Allure and I'm doing a story on acne. So if you have any cool products, like, email me and send them to me. So use that. And the first piece that we got was an article in Into the Gloss, which is a content publication of Glossier. And I remember, I mean, back then the business was so simple, it was really easy to do the attribution. So the day that the Into the Gloss article went up, our sales on Amazon went up by I don't know, like 300% or something like that. Like I saw the spike,
Yep.
and then there was like it kind of tailed off after a few days. But that's where I saw the power of a really good earned media piece.
Mhm.
So then I started doubling down on PR. I just started pitching more people. I eventually hired a PR consultant to help pitch. And then we started getting more pieces in like Business Insider or BuzzFeed or New York Mag, etc. So really focus heavily on PR. And then in terms of influencers, again, we did heavy gifting. really focus on micro influencers because we could never afford like, the people with 1 million followers or whatnot. So just really focus on heavy gifting and every now and then, and also like because of the collective, I think momentum that we were getting on Instagram, we started to see a lot of like positive sales attributed to that channel as well.
So how has that tactic changed over time on the gifting side? Because I know that that was something that was huge, right? When we first started Tribe, just massive, massive mailers, and really a focus on pure kind of organic content. And it feels like there's been a shift towards kind of more paid relationships over the last couple of years, possibly in partnership with those people that are organic. How have your tactics changed in terms of
Yeah.
those elements?
We still do quite a bit of gifting. We focus actually a lot more on TikTok too, TikTok creators.
Hmm.
We started working on that platform around like 2019, so before before it became like officially cool. We do a lot with influencers on Instagram, but we focus primarily on stories.
Hmm.
So before they had the swipe up, so I mean, some of these influencers, they would do like 10 frames explaining like the brand and the product. And at the end, there would be the swipe up, which now is a link tap. But it was great because it's almost like direct selling, right? Except you're doing it on Instagram. And that as a channel has worked really well for us when we found the right influencer. So we do a lot more with that specific feature.
Yeah, the kind of direct contribution of revenue is like a super important element that I think's come to light over the last couple of years. How do you think about investing in things that are more, call it top of funnel, right? Where you can't actually kind of measure direct ROI, or it's more difficult to, right? You can't see it as clearly as
Yeah.
you used to with like Into the Gloss. How do you think about those
Yeah.
efforts? How do you invest in those in a way where it's like kind of blind?
Yeah, I mean, we've experimented. We did like a big sampling activation with coffee and clothes last summer where we were launching a SPF. So we had like this wrapped truck that gave out samples of ice cream and also samples of our SPF. So that, we had one in LA, we had one in New York. And this year we want to do more top of the funnel investments too. So we've been talking a lot about OTT. I mean, there's always a time and place for every brand to do that. You probably don't want to do it in the beginning, but we've been around for like 5 years, and our awareness compared to our size is still like relatively low. So
Hmm.
though we do want to start making investments there because I think our distribution footprint's getting bigger, and we have the dollars to be able to support it. And I mean, ideally, like what you'd be making investments more top of the funnel, and then ideally you'd see the results like at the bottom of the funnel too, because again, we all know like people need to see the same message like 5 to 10 different times before they actually purchase. And so I think, I mean, the whole idea is you start investing top of the funnel and it makes your bottom of the funnel dollars more efficient.
Hmm.
So we'll see if we can get there.
So for those that don't know, what is OTT?
It's the ads on, like, for example, Hulu or Amazon has it via the Fire Stick.
Hmm.
I think it stands for like over the top TV or something like that. But yeah, it's those like those ads that you see when you're watching your favorite streaming your favorite series or movie.
Have you tested any of the more traditional channels like a TV or a radio, just like kind of down the fairway?
No, we haven't done TV. We don't have the distribution yet because we're still like fairly limited. And
Mhm.
then we've tried podcasts. We experimented with podcasts. We've done direct mail and had some success with direct mail, but we haven't done radio.
So we talked about this last time, and I've been observing your behavior on Twitter, right? And I've thought about Twitter a lot. Like I've thought about really going all in on Twitter, but at the same time, I think that it can be risky, right? So we had John Dempsey at ELC recently ran into some
Yeah,
trouble that 31 years
that's
in,
right.
and he's out, right? For
Yeah.
retweeting something that was insensitive, or however we want to classify it. And so, what's been your thought about investing in Twitter and what has been the motivation, right? Why do you keep doing it? What are you getting out of it? Because I know there's value there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I love
And this is your
Twitter. I
personal
learned
account
so
we're
much
talking
from
about.
it.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, it is my personal account. I mean, I love the community on Twitter. I think I learned so much. So people, I think actually, yeah, I tweeted once that it's like better than an MBA because I learned so much on this channel from a lot of really smart people.
Hmm.
But you're right, it comes with risks because as I mean, I'm the face of this company. I'm also the co-founder and CEO. And so and it's something that like I've been thinking about as we get bigger and bigger is that, yeah, things that you say and your behavior, it gets really scrutinized,
Hmm.
because you sort of become, I mean, you're kind of like this too, like you become a public figure. And so I've noticed, it's interesting because I've noticed some founders as their businesses have gotten bigger, I feel like they've become more quiet on social.
Hmm.
And I imagine it's probably not a coincidence. I think as you get like more well known, some people just prefer more privacy.
Yep.
And so I don't know, like maybe that will happen to me. I'm not sure, but as a channel, like I think it's fascinating. I've met people, I've made friends from Twitter. I mean, some of them have like written small checks into the company. I've just made really great contacts. It is truly a community. I learn so much, but I do like read everything I think about posting. I read it like 2 or 3 times to make sure, you know,
I like
I'm
sit
not
on it for the
gonna.
night. Be like, "Ah, I'm gonna check this out in the
Yeah,
morning."
exactly. I
Well,
don't want to
because
become a John Dempsey.
yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, right? Some of the kind of things that are most provocative from a kind of from an intellectual perspective can be controversial, right? And so, it's this fine balance between saying things that are going to get you attention, but that also have risks. Um, at the same time, I think to your point, the community, I've kind of watched it more than participated in this kind of really strong direct to consumer, brand founder community. Um,
Yeah.
like Moyes, if you know him from Native, is really
Oh yeah,
active
yeah, of
on
course.
there, right? There's a ton of them
Yep,
that are
he
out
is.
there, and so
Yep.
yeah, I've been thinking about getting into it myself a bit more. I am a
You
avid
should.
I've thought about it. I'm just like I'm already on a lot of channels. Like but no,
Yeah.
it's yeah, because I am an avid Twitter consumer every day, multiple times a day.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
haven't become a contributor yet. So,
Yeah. Well, I think you have a lot to contribute, and I think people would learn a lot from you. So,
well, I appreciate that. So I actually want to talk about one of your tweets specifically. So you mentioned Into the Gloss earlier.
mhm.
And obviously Into the Gloss led to Glossier, which is a brand that, was kind of a media darling and a venture capitalist darling for the direct to consumer world for a while, raised a ton of money. And if my recollection is correct, you kind of talked about like, hey, love this brand, love Emily, love the team. But I think that, raising all of that capital kind of made things harder, right? Not easier,
Yes.
possibly. So what is
Yep.
it about kind of raising all that capital that made things more difficult for them as a brand from your perspective?
I mean, you have to know what industry you're in and what kind of business you're building, and you have to raise the right kind of money. So I think at the heart of what Glossy's mistake was is that they are actually a beauty brand and a beauty business, but they raised tech dollars,
Mm-hmm.
and the expectations from those two categories is like wildly different because tech investors will expect you to grow really, really fast. Uh, they want to 10x their initial investment, but people in the beauty industry, they won't expect you to grow that fast. They'll expect maybe like a 3 to 5x on their money, which actually is much more reasonable for the category.
Yep.
And they'll also put an emphasis on being profitable. Whereas I don't think, I think in tech, it's much more like, doesn't matter if you lose money, just grow, 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 grow.
Yep.
And so, I mean, it's come to a reckoning because I think they're realizing, okay, well, we're not a tech company. Actually, okay, we are actually a beauty business. And so I think they just got rid of like a lot of their tech team, which is really sad.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so that realization, I think, came too late, because they should have known all along that that's who they were, and that's what they were building. Because unfortunately, I think with those big dollars come big expectations. And I mean, I've been reading some press that, I think last year's sales were down in the US, which is, definitely not good.
Yep.
So yeah, you just got to know what category you're in, what industry you're in, raise the right dollars with the right investors, because um, it'll make otherwise, like, your life will be hell, I think.
Yeah, I don't know of any significant win on the retailer brand side through VC that I know of, right? I think there's like Jet.com got sold for a ton of money. Obviously, Dollar Shave Club got sold for $1 billion, et cetera. But almost all of those were seen as failures post sale, right?
Yeah,
And
totally.
so, but from an investor perspective, if I were to look at a company like Hero, I'd be like, wow, margins are great, profitable, $100 million in 4 years, like, you know, let's go to the moon, right? Um,
Yeah.
but it hasn't seemed to work out yet. It doesn't seem there's just something
Yeah.
that doesn't
That
match up there.
Yeah, and I've heard, like, I'm not a VC and I'm not really in that industry, but I've heard like those dollars have now moved on,
Yep.
because everyone has realized like D2C, it's not what everyone thought it was. And you're right, like a bunch of companies just went public too, and none of them are doing so hot. So
Although
I don't know, maybe everyone's.
tech sector's cooled down too. Like if you look at the numbers for
Yeah,
like any
it's
tech
true.
stock that IPO'd in the last 2 years, it's like they're all down 25 to
Bad. It's bad.
75%. It's like nuts. It is absolutely crazy. It hasn't filtered down to us from an
Yeah,
investment perspective, but I think it will kind of come down the
yeah,
chain, right? For any company that's tracking
yeah.
to an IPO. Um, awesome. Okay. And then the last topic I want to hit is this idea of focus. So you've mentioned in a couple other interviews, and I know Alicia from Prelude. She was the former president at Johnson and Johnson, and you talked
Yep.
about how she really pushed you towards focusing on acne patches at the beginning, right? Versus saying like going into a bunch of different product categories. So,
Yep.
talk to me a little bit about kind of focus, right? Like, what are you focused on
Hmm.
now? And what have been some of the benefits that you've noticed from having both a really focused product strategy, but just generally being like intensely, to your point, saying no to a lot of things, intensely focused as a CEO?
Yeah, I mean, that was game-changing advice. So the background for that story is had launched Mighty Patch. It was doing really well. And then I wanted to do a different type of product, like a wash-off mask and some
Hmm.
other things, like creams and things. And then, yeah, Alicia at Prelude, I had a coffee meeting with her, showed her the product, told her, oh, I want to work on other products like these, like wash-off masks, etc. She said, no, do not do that. You should stick with patches, to do them in every size, every shape, for every need. Just go deep down this patch category and own this category. And when I thought about it, I thought she's right. So we scrapped the plans for this, wash off mask and other formats, and we just stuck to patches. And I mean, it's just, it's such a good like analogy, because I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs and founders who it's really easy to get distracted in the beginning, because like, okay, your product's doing well, and you got like this retailer who wants you and that retailer, and you have like, 5 to 10 other opportunities in front of you to expand your product line. But I think, yeah. So back to your question, like the focus is so critical, because you don't have all the time in the world. You don't have the resources. You don't have the people, and it's so much better. And actually, my investor Trevor, he had made a really good quote, which is that do something on a small scale. Like for us, it was Amazon. So do something small on a small scale, uh, but something that's repeatable and scalable.
Hmm.
And so, for example, like we did one patch on Amazon, then we did more patches on Amazon. Then we took that same model to Target. So we started with one patch, and then we like did many other patches, and then we started adding other SKUs, and we just started kind of. It was like a rinse and repeat across other channels. And so I think having that kind of like that focus is critical, because otherwise, I mean, it's just so easy to get distracted and to like do 1,000 things and do none of them well. And so definitely, I think having the ability to prioritize is a superpower as a founder.
It's one of the hardest things as an entrepreneur, right? Because, part of the reason you get into it is you want to do something new and better and you have an ideas and all these things. And to say like, no, 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 like I've got all these ideas, but this is all we're going to do, right? I mean, we cut out,
Takes a lot of discipline. Yeah.
it's really hard. And it's really hard to know like
Yeah.
where that line is. Because it's not,
Yeah.
it's not a clear red line.
Yeah.
We cut out about 50% of our revenue because we had kind of taken on too much, right? And we cut out about
Hmm.
50% of our revenue 3 years ago. And we're like,
Yeah.
hey, this revenue, really, really good. This other revenue, not so good, right? If you looked at the characteristics of it. And that was painful. I mean, we had been
Yeah.
doubling, 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 doubling. And then we said, hey, we're going to do this. And so then we were like flat for 2 years. And then over the last, call it 18 months to 2 years, we've been exploding. I mean, our gross margins went from 66 to 80%. Retention rates went from 90 to 115.
Oh my
NPS went from
gosh.
mid 20s to mid 60s. It was wild. Growth went through the roof.
Yeah.
And
It's
it was all a
amazing.
matter of just saying like, hey, we know that we can service these types of customers really, really well. And although that seems small, so for us, it's brands with over 50,000 followers on Instagram. And so
Hmm.
we know that we can service those brands really, really well. And although that sounds like a small group of people, there are about 26,000 brands that fit that criteria just in our
Hmm.
kind of core categories. And so at the
Yeah.
time, we had a few hundred brands as clients. Like, we could get to 10x the size and have less than, 5%, 10% of the market, right? Like,
Yeah.
so anyways, it is my number one piece of advice to other entrepreneurs, for sure.
Yeah, and just like on that note, sometimes more is not better, right? So I
Yep.
was talking to this founder who has a lab, and he works with a lot of beauty brands, and he was telling me, he said I told my team to stop taking on new business. We're gonna focus on the ones that we have, and we're gonna build vertically, rather than like across.
Mm-hmm.
So he wanted to go deep, and deeper with each client that he already had, rather than like bringing on, I don't know, 20, 30 new clients.
Yep.
And then it was funny because I was talking to another sort of lab, and he told me we only have 10 clients at a time.
Wow.
And it doesn't mean that they only have 10 brands, because sometimes like one customer will have like multiple brands, but really disciplined about, we only take on 10 clients, 10 customers, and we try to just maximize the hell out of that relationship. So yeah, I mean, I think kind of like what you guys did, sometimes more isn't always better. Sometimes it's better to go deeper.
100%. And then you also become kind of known for something, right? So for you guys, like you are known for being the acne patch brand. And like for most
Yeah.
people, they're trying to keep track of a lot of stuff all the time. And so for any single brand or concept, they usually have like a sentence, right? Or maybe even just a word. And so you have to think about what that sentence is. What is that word associated with your company? And like, how can you just become known for that, right? Become the first thing
Yeah.
they think of when they think of that. Anyways, okay. So let's get into fun end of show question. And I cannot tell you how lucky I feel that you did this with me round two. So the first time I asked you the question of, you know, for really focused, really successful people, they are very kind of judicious with their time, but they do have time where they like, slack off, do whatever they want. And for you, yours were like Netflix, cooking, a few other things. So what I want to know is on the cooking side, what are like your 3 killer recipes that you make that you're like, anybody comes in, I can make this, I can nail it, and it's going to be really good.
Ooh, that's a good one. I make a really good, like a puttanesca sauce,
Okay.
for
Okay.
pasta.
Yeah.
That would be one. Uh, I can make a really good steak, actually. I just made some this weekend.
What kind of
And
cut? What's your
then
cut you go for? What kind of cut of meat on your steak?
um I like a good ribeye.
All right, I like
I like a good
it.
ribeye.
Yeah. I can tell you like
And
food. People
then
that like food like ribeyes.
yeah. And then, something that I really honed during the pandemic was sourdough bagels.
Oh,
That turned out really well. Yeah,
yeah.
I was pretty proud
I
of that.
very unsuccessfully tried to make sourdough starter. And yeah, have you? So do you like? Do you have? How long have you had your sourdough now? Your yeast,
Well,
your
it
starter.
died.
Oh, it
It
died.
it died, but I had it for a good year,
Yeah.
and then it died. Yeah,
Oh no.
so I have to start all over again.
There you go. Well, Gio, I really appreciate you taking out the time. Congrats again on all the success. Not surprising to see where you guys have gotten, but still super, super impressive nonetheless. And I am fully expecting you guys to continue to grow really rapidly. So excited to see where you guys take it
Well, it was awesome to chat for a second time,
to.
and yeah,
Well,
thanks for having
hopefully
me.
you'll be the
This sounds like
first and
awesome.
last guest that ever gets to do that honor.
Yeah,
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Ju.
thanks.
Bye.
Hit subscribe now. Earned by Tribe Dynamics. Tribe Dynamics unlocks your social media influencer community. Our platform not only tracks and measures your best influencer relationships, but discovers new influencers to grow your business through earned media. Get started with a demo today at tribedynamics.com. Tribedynamics.com.